Hello, brothers and sisters. I mentioned yesterday I wanted to read Gideon, the story of Gideon. It's an awesome story, and there's numbers here. So if you can pay attention to the numbers, you're gonna hear 7 and 3. 7 is, to me, is God, our Father, and 3 is Christ. But throughout this whole Bible, you're gonna hear numbers. You're gonna see numbers. You're gonna see man, I keep seeing this number. I keep hearing this number. So I'm gonna read you. Gideon is in Judges 6. So it's on Judges 6. And before I start reading, just so you know, prior to this time, there was 40 years of peace. Remember 40. Remember that number 40. So there was peace on the land in Israel for 40 years. And then something happened after that. So I'm going to read it. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites, because the power of the Midian was so oppressive. The Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain cliffs, caves, and strongholds. Wherever the Israelite planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza, and did not spare a living thing of Israel, neither sheep, nor cattle, nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock in their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count the men and their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. So Israel, again, whenever they're in trouble, then they go calling out to the Lord, and the Lord always answers. So then when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because the Midian, he sent them a prophet who said this, as what the Lord, the God Israel says: I brought you up out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery. I snatched you from the power of Egypt and from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them from before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live, but you have not listened to me. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak of Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. But sir, Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hands of the Midian. The Lord turned to him and said, Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of the Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? But Lord, Gideon asked, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites together. Gideon replied, if now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offerings and set it before you. And the Lord said, I will wait until you return. Gideon went in prepared a young goat, and from the ephah of flour he made bread without yeast, putting the meat in the basket and it broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth." And the Gideon did so. With the tip of the staff that was in his hand, the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Oh, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it "The Lord is Peace." To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. That same night the Lord said to him, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on the top of this height, using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down. Offer the second bull as a burnt offering." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the man of the town, he did it at night rather than the daytime. In the morning, when the man of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished, with the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, "Who did this?" When they carefully investigated, they were told, "Gideon, son of Joash, did it." Then the man of town demanded of Joash, "Bring out your son. He must die because he broke down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it." But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, "Are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him should be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar." So that day they called Gideon Jerubbaal, saying, "Let Baal contend with him, because he broke down Baal's altar." Now all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Zered. When the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning Abiezrites to follow him, he sent messengers throughout the Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also into Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, so that they too went up to meet them. Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said." And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not be angry with me. Let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece. This time make the fleece dry and the ground covered with dew." That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry. All the ground was covered with dew. Gideon's defeat the Midianites. So early in the morning, Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Horeb. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men for me to deliver Midian into your hands. In order that Israel may not boast against me that her own strength has saved her, announce now to the people, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back to leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. But the Lord said to Gideon, "There are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will sift them for you there. If I say the one should go with you, he should go. But if I say this one should not go with you, he should not go." So Gideon took the man down to the water. There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel down to drink." 300 men lapped with their hands to their mouth. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, "With the 300 men that lap, I will save you to give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the other men go, each to his own place." So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of the Midian lay below him in the valley. During that night, the Lord said to Gideon, "Get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it to you into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Porah and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp." So he and Porah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites and the Amalekites and all the other eastern people had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand of the seashore. Gideon arrived just as man was telling a friend his dream. "I had a dream," he was saying. "A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianites' camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed." His friend responded, "This can be nothing other than the swords of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hand." When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he worshipped God.